That stuff. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Millennial Think Tank. Tonight we're focusing on what millennials think of Microsoft as the brand. Lots of changes are happening, and of course, Gen Y is famous for being Apple fans. So it'll be interesting to see what our panel thinks about Microsoft. And I'm going to have you guys start. We have two people who will be coming in later, but I'm going to have you guys start. Albert, we're going to start with you, even though I can't see you. I can see the roof of your car. Introduce yourself, where you are, what you do, and where you fall in the millennial spectrum. That would be great.
Hi, my name is Albert. I am a 27-year-old millennial working in high tech, specifically cloud, living here in Orange County, California after moving over here from Silicon Valley. And that's it, right?
That's it. And you're a middle millennial. You're in your mid-20s, right?
Yep.
Yep.
That's
okay,
it.
Joe.
All right, cool.
Joe, we'll go with you.
I'm Joe. I'm an older millennial. I do all sorts of technology-oriented stuff, product management, project management, content, analytics. And I'm located in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and Boulder, Colorado.
Great. Okay, Mary.
My name is Mary Keeney, and I'm an interior designer working in architecture for. Okay, that's weird. And
you're a young millennial.
Middle millennial.
You're pretty young millennial.
Well, I'm mid-20s.
I thought you were 23.
24.
Oh, okay. You're 24. All right, Zach.
Mid.
Hi, I'm Zach Johnson. I'm a young millennial, very young millennial, and I just graduated from Ringling College in Sarasota.
We lost him, Mary.
We lost him. He'll be back.
He's sitting in the same house as Mary, so I think we'll get him back. All right. So then I'm going to start with questions. So we're down to 3 people, but we'll have 3 more when we keep going. All right. So Albert, I'm going to start with you. And like I said, you don't have to be an advocate either way. I really want to figure out millennial brand perception. So I'm going to start with what was your first operating system? What did you think of Microsoft, and what are you using now? Like at this very moment, what OS are you using?
Right. So as far as I guess there's going to be 2 of them that I'm going to give you because I actually work a lot with Microsoft at work because they're one of our flagship cloud marketplace services that we use here at Ingram Micro, and so I'll cover that and what I'm doing. So. My first operating system was Windows 95 in 1995. That's my parents got one of our first family computers. And currently I use both Windows 7 for my work laptop, and I am a Mac user with an iPad, an iPhone, and a MacBook Pro. So I have that going as well. And I think when Microsoft first did what they did, it was pretty cool. I mean, because it was an operating system with a user interface, and that's always really nice because for those of us who aren't coders, it makes the whole process of being able to use a platform much easier. And then I would say as Microsoft's gone on, I think it went through a phase where it was very, how would I describe this? Kind of an old dinosaur because they didn't really innovate that well, and they didn't do much of it. And then I would say lately they've kind of caught on to the cloud trend. They have a tool that I think is pretty cool called Office 365, and so I work with them at work. I guess you could say that they pay my bills. But I would also say that with Windows Phone and all that stuff, they're really making a way coming back and really being hip, which is something you couldn't have really said about them a couple of years ago. So I would say that.
They're coming back and being hip. Like tech people in Silicon Valley think Microsoft is becoming hip. And
well,
so Albert's like the total tech person who was in Silicon Valley forever. Now he's in Orange County. But is that what's happening?
I wouldn't say like it's hip like that hip. I would say that it's something more along the lines of they figured out a way to like innovate. They are they're fighting with Google and Amazon for like market share when it comes to a lot of like cloud products and collaboration and stuff like that. So I mean I think the time when you think about where Microsoft kind of dropped off a little bit was maybe like the early 2000s to like the mid 2000s, where they really had Windows XP going for them, and everything else was kind of like a ho-hum experiment. You really didn't know where it was going. And I think now they've kind of caught on to a lot of emerging technology trends. I think they bought Motorola a little ways back, right? So they kind of, or was it Nokia? And they kind of have an idea of what they're doing in that area now. And I mean, I think I still think that in a lot of ways, Apple is still fairly cool because they're always going to be Apple. But
I don't know. That's what I'm trying to figure out. Are they always going to be Apple? Because I'm just wondering if something is shifting, because there was a post I read, Microsoft's cooler than Google to work at. And I thought, wow. And I'll tell you the other, and we can talk about this later, but my friend Bev, who's a boomer and a total tech freak, loves every new gadget and is a total Apple fan person, got an Apple Watch. And when I saw it, my first reaction was, oh, that's kind of ugly. It's kind of thick. It doesn't look cool.
All first-gen Apple products are kind of ugly, though.
I know. Well, wait. And so I said that, and the bands kind of, I don't know, the whole thing, I was like, well, what does it do then? What does it do besides, like, a Fitbit? And, we had a little exchange on Facebook because she, like a lot of Apple people, you're not supposed to question it. But I just, anyway, we'll get to it. We'll get to more because Susan Silver, who works with us, is really interested in Microsoft and a lot of the technology they're working on now. But okay, so we're done with Apple for now. Just Joe. So the question is, Zach, and you missed it too, is what was your first operating system? What did you think about Microsoft? When you first started using computers. What are you using now? What's the OS you're using right now? And what's your perception now? So Joe, I'm going to go with you.
Yeah, I mean, my first OS was definitely MS-DOS, little black screen, typing away. Learn the basics of using a computer on that. Never even touched a Mac until I was in my mid-20s. The schools that I went to, I'm sure they all had PCs. So that was kind of my early experience, was all MS-DOS, Windows 95, 98, XP. Still love XP. Sad that they stopped supporting it. It's one of the most functional and smart OSs there is. And then right now I'm kind of like a mix. I've used Apple products quite a bit for work, especially. I enjoy what they do. I'm a mixed Android/Apple user, but mostly I tend to use Windows products, and I'm on Windows 8 right now. So.
Can I just ask you, is that a choice? Because I'm not an Apple fan girl. I used PCs primarily because I was in business, and when I was in sales back in the day, you had to. There wasn't any, and I bought a Mac laptop and was enamored with it, but when it wasn't functional for business, I just never got back into it. So I've sort of been in the PC world almost out of habit. It wasn't necessarily an anti-Apple choice. So why have you been there? Like, why?
Well, I mean, actually, it's interesting because Albert sort of pointed at it. For a long time, startups pretty much have used Apple exclusively, right? So if you go to any startup in the Bay Area, for example, and you show up and you get paid a pretty good chunk of change, it probably includes a Mac Air or a MacBook. And so that's part of the deal. I think, I don't know if this is necessarily borne out, but I think that in terms of the functionality and the user experience and user design, it's starting to even out a little bit, to the point where if you want to be able to do the same things that you would do on a MacBook Air or a MacBook Pro, you can pretty much do those on Windows, on the Windows platform, and or similar devices, tablets especially, have caught up. I think that that playing ground that Apple had, where it's like you just couldn't do things with other devices and other OSs that you could do on Apple's platform, I think that's kind of leveled out. Now, the reason that I personally made the switch is because it's sort of more functional on the other side now, but also I prefer the the user experience. I prefer the privacy protections controls, and I prefer the functionality of the Windows platform and Microsoft if I can get it, if it covers the basics.
Wait, so you prefer the security of Windows?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I'm a little more insular, probably. I don't really like Apple's closed circuit kind of development system. I really dislike the way the app marketplace works. There's a lot of problems with that. It's probably another kind of conversation altogether. But I think Microsoft does a nice job of being a fairly open platform, being fairly smart and being fairly communicative with its developers and the end user about what the platform is good for and how it works, and they do good user research, that type of thing.
Okay, I get it. All right, so I'm going to jump to Zach, Mary, just because we have pro Windows there, and I know that you told me that Zach is an Apple fanboy. So Zach, tell me about, before you get into how much you love Apple, tell me what your first operating system was, like your first computer experiences, and tell us a little bit about what you do, because I know that probably has a big impact on how you see Apple, right? What you're going to do, because you just graduated with this incredible degree from Ringling. So all of that. Oh, and you didn't get to introduce yourself and say, oh yes you did, sorry. My bad. Just keep going.
All right, yeah, so I originally got into using Apple computers just about 5 years ago, actually, and it was in a audio class that I had.
Good. No, that's right. Mary, let him tell his story. They're in the same room.
I played with Apple computers when I was really young, but I never really cared much for them. I always had a Windows PC. I always used a Windows PC. I was able to do everything that I needed to do on a Windows PC. I actually never understood when my cousin got a MacBook Air for college. I never understood why she needed it, because all she was going to do was write papers. And the guy at Best Buy talked my aunt into getting my cousin this expensive computer for no reason at all. And she was trying to talk to me about how it was the best computer to get for the things that she needed to do, but she wasn't doing anything that important for that exact device. It wasn't until later that when I started actually using Apple computers, I realized functionally, they work better than most Windows operating systems that I've played with, which is XP 98 and Windows 7, and now I have Windows 8 on my computer build.
What?
And so,
wait, I thought you were all Apple.
I was actually until just recently. I have a computer build. I built my own computer.
You had to pay for yourself?
Well, I built my own computer, and there's like a back way to go through your computer and access Mac's operating system. So I did that for a long time. But the thing about that is that there's little things that could be wrong, and you have to find there's a whole bunch of hacking that you have to do and everything like that. And I just want my system to work, and so I switched to Windows 8 a few months ago.
Yeah,
or
go
2 months
ahead,
ago.
Joe.
Why did you choose to? I'm just curious why you chose to build your own versus getting a Mac stack or a laptop or whatever.
I didn't have enough money. I have a MacBook Pro.
Yeah.
I have a MacBook Pro, but I do things like edit films, motion design, 3D animation. All those things need a lot of processing power. So unless I would have gotten the high-end, brand new 2015 or 2014 MacBook Pro 17-inch or something like that, which would still cost a lot of money.
$3,000 or whatever, just to get the basic. Yeah.
Exactly, and I spent probably about $1,200 on my computer build, and it works really good, especially now that I put Windows 8 on it.
So what would it have cost to get what you needed in Apple? Because honestly, my big thing, a lot of the reason I never switched to Apple was price. It was not when I was thinking of switching, it was also buying all the programs individually, switching over, which would have been Photoshop and Adobe, all that Adobe stuff. So what would the equivalent have cost for you to get the Mac you wanted?
$4,000.
Okay. So if you're not in Silicon Valley and you're not making a fortune, because I have a lot of friends who are Apple advocates who aren't tech people. They just think it's cool and beautiful and design is important. But it is a considerable difference in price. So, okay, wow. That was like a curveball to me, Zach, because I didn't expect you to. So you're liking Windows 8, you're liking what you built, and is it as good as, and it's as good as what you would have bought for the $4,000?
When it comes to the builds of Mac computers, there is a certain reliability that you get a little bit more than I've ever gotten from any PC computer, and because it's my own build, I don't know how reliable it will be. Actually, this is my second motherboard that I have in my computer right now, and I had to get that replaced because the first one fried. which is something that naturally happens all the time. Anybody that has built computers will tell you that like parts fry all the time. There's just issues that they have, and I've also had issues with that with my Windows computers that I've had before. Not with pieces of parts, but like the computer will just shut down. It'll screw up. You go to a computer, any kind of place that fixes computers, and they want this huge chunk of change for to fix your computer, which usually adds up to just me getting a Mac to start with.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a reliability that I get. Like build quality is a big difference. Like you don't get the best like the top specs of anything, but because all the specs or because all the components are issued by Apple and the software is also issued by Apple, there's a conversation going on that's better than most Windows devices, other than like the Windows Surface, which Windows is like making sure that hardware and that software are talking well together.
Yeah.
As well as possible. Unlike if you got like a Dell or a Lenovo or something like that. It's the same way with Android products. I have a Nexus Android or Android phone because I know that there's a certain amount of reliability that doesn't really exist with other companies creating their own phone or their own computer and then just slapping on top. I used to have an iPhone. I have absolutely no problem with iPhones. It's just
so you went from an iPhone to an Android phone. Why?
I personally like the customization that I have. That's just me. I never recommend most people to go from iPhone to Android phone. There's no real reason. iPhone has everything that you would honestly need, and app-wise, they have way more apps when it comes to what I do.
Okay.
So any kind of digital media.
Okay, we're going to stop for 1 second because we're going to come back to phones, and I have opinions, and I know Joe does too, but I want to go to Mary. So Mary is, thank God, the one non-tech in the group, and we'll have more non-tech people coming. Just because part of what I want to figure out is what people who are just normal people who use technology like we all do in everyday life, which is really what I am. I mean, I might live in the social world in a lot of ways, but I'm not a tech freak. I couldn't, like, a lot of the stuff you're saying, I can't build my own computer. You know, I use them for communication and everyday life. So Mary, tell me, what was your first operating system? What did you think of Microsoft when you started, and what do you think of them now, and what do you use now? Okay, I can't hear you because you're muted. And now she's saying, Zach, you're muted. But your computer shows muted. Okay. Can't hear you. All right, you guys figure it out. All right, there you go. There you go.
Hi. This is what I was trying to do.
They're in the same build. This is cracking me up. All right, so you heard what I asked you, though, right?
Yeah, I heard you. So my first operating system was a DOS, actually. I grew up with my grandfather's computer, and
I can hear you just fine.
He made sure that I could work it and like learn how to type and everything on that. But I remember in elementary, when I was in 2nd grade, they got Macs in their like little computer lab, and they were all excited. So we used Macs for a while, and then went back to PC.
I lost Zach, so I lost you, Mary, because he left. He dropped off. So, okay, Joe, I'm going to go to you right now until they get back. You said Androids are totally functional because I want to talk about the phone part of it, right, which I didn't mean to get into.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, you know, obviously, I mean, it's something Albert was sort of saying in chat where we were sort of talking about, like, the relationship. Because so on the one hand you've got Google Play, you've got Android, you've got that Play marketplace and all the apps that go with that. On the other side you've got Apple, which is obviously a closed marketplace, and it's like I mean I think it's pretty safe to say, based on everything that I know, that it for a while there, for a few years there, like there's a lot of stuff you could do on an iPhone and a lot of apps and a lot of functionality that just didn't exist on other devices. I don't think that's the case any longer. So maybe the experience is a little bit different.
Speak to the number of apps, because I had an iPhone late. I had a BlackBerry forever because I was used to it, and I don't like to switch technology just because I become comfortable. But when it first started, there were definitely far more apps on an iPhone. So you think it's equal now? I mean, I have an Android. I don't.
I mean, who's really looking? When you open up your device and you need to solve a problem of some sort, if there are a handful of pretty good options, who cares about the rest? Like, that's the way that I approach it. That's the way that I think most people tend to approach it. I don't know if that's 100% accurate, but like if there are 5 apps that can do the basic thing I'm looking for and they're all fairly well rated, I'll probably try 1 or 2 of them. And I don't really care if they're Apple or Android at that point.
Yeah. Okay, Mary, I think if you unmute yourself, we can hear you now. This is the fun of Google Hangouts. This is what happens, especially if you're on wireless. Okay, so you said you were on DOS when you first started, but I mean, when you really were using computers for yourself and for work, what were you using, and what did you think of Microsoft, and what do you think now?
I primarily use PCs. When I started at Ringling, they are a Mac-based campus because of all of the graphic design and illustration and all that. So because they use the Adobe products so heavily, most of the computers on campus are Macs. But with me doing architecture/interior design, they're still PC-based. And so especially because of Autodesk has not gone to, or they're only kind of going to Macs now. And I've tried a couple, I've tried their AutoCAD for Mac. It's not good at all.
Yeah, I wonder.
It's really sad.
Interesting. Wow, I thought by now it would have.
They only opened it up to Mac in 2012, and so they still haven't really improved. I actually bought a PC laptop so that I could do work, do freelancing work with a PC as opposed to using my Mac for it.
And so you're running Windows what on that?
I'm running Windows 7, I think. Yeah,
which is the one that's easy to use that you'll know.
Or no, it has Windows 8 on it.
Yeah, okay.
Which is a pain, because I bought it right after they released Windows 8. I wish I had gotten it right before then. But so I have Windows 8 on that. But at work we use Windows, and we have Windows 7.
So for interior design, are you using a Mac?
No, we still use PC.
Is that prevalent? Is that
It is because of the Autodesk factor to it, of using AutoCAD or 3ds Max or Maya, things like those programs. You have to really use a PC for it as opposed to a Mac.
So you can't buy a Mac even if you want to because it's not going to be functional for your job. Is that accurate?
Yeah. Yeah, I have a Mac laptop from school, but for work I don't really use it. I can if I want to, but it's not. I normally, honestly, go into the office if I need to do something on the weekend because it's not worth it.
So what's your phone? What kind of phone do you have?
I have an iPhone.
Okay, and which iPhone do you have?
I have the iPhone 5S.
Okay, and is there a reason that what are you thinking? You're thinking something about it.
Well, one, Zach wants you to know that he bought it for me. But I started.
Well done, Zach. Well done.
It took me a really long time to get into smartphones. I had a Sidekick for a really long time, and then when I moved down to Florida in 2012 is when I got the Windows Lumina. I don't remember which version it was, but it wasn't good. It died within a year. Which is why I got the iPhone, because I just didn't want a phone I wanted a phone that's gonna last, that I can drop, and it'll be okay as long as I have a case on it, because I don't care about customizing or anything. I just want it to work. Survive.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Wait, Albert, you have Mac everything, right?
Yeah. Well, I own an iPad, which I have right here. I own an iPhone, which is right here, and I'm currently taking this Google Hangout from on top of a MacBook Pro. That's about 3.5, 4 years old.
Wait, what's your phone? Which iPhone is it?
It's the iPhone 5S. I I'm not a fan to the point where I line up for things. I just get it when I get it, because it's just functional that way. And I mean, you know, I'm not really like, I think, on fire about a lot of Windows like type products as far as I think, you know, what they come in.
What about
If
the
I wanted
Surface?
to buy like a
like, would you ever?
laptop,
Would you buy a Surface?
no, I probably wouldn't. Like the only PC laptop I would buy is like a Lenovo laptop with running Windows on it, because Lenovo's are often looked upon as the strongest and they don't fall apart like other laptops I've had in the past. So that's what comes down to me as far as preference is concerned.
Okay, sorry, Dominic's gonna come.
Okay.
Joe, wait a sec. Sorry, I've got so many questions from. I want to talk about MP3 players, but is everybody finished with that topic? You know, operating system. Because one of the things I want to know is.
MP3 players.
Well, not simply.
Yeah, I mean,
what was the MP3 player versus.
2005 called it wants its MP3 player back.
Shut up. This is Susan's question. She wanted to know what you guys thought about Zune and the iPod. Like, what happened? I guess is
Here, I can have it because I have one last comment on
okay,
the OSs. Is like, if in case you didn't come across, I enjoy Apple's. I mean, I like what they do, and I like their OS, and I like the products. I have a problem with the closed nature of it, and so that has a lot to do with why I don't use Apple products. And if the next best thing is pretty good, I'm cool with it. With the music, like this is gonna probably shock a couple of people. Maybe is like I never had an iPod. I never even owned that much music. Like I had no reason to have like separate 5 gig or 10 gig hard drives. So for me, it's like streaming music came naturally because I sort of preferred that without having to own a lot of it. So I never owned anything like a Zune or any of that stuff, and I never had an iPod. And I basically bought records or downloaded like the full maybe MP3 set from my favorite bands, and that was it. So. And hi to like 8 million people that just arrived.
Okay, so Jillian, I'm going to start with you. And hi, I haven't seen you forever. So we're going to have you, introduce yourself, where you live, where you fall in the millennial spectrum, what you do, and then I'm just going to have you go right into the original question, which was, what did you think of Microsoft when you first really started using computers? And I don't mean like when you were in 2nd grade. I mean when they became important to your work, your schoolwork, whatever. And what operating system were you on? And then what do you use now? So. Is your microphone working? Because you have a big microphone.
Yes, it's Dino's microphone. But I don't know how I've hooked it up here because I hear you, but it's not in my ear thingies. Like it's coming out of the computer, but the microphone is plugged in.
You sound great. So you don't need to hear me. We just need to hear you. So okay. Do that. You do your normal introduction and then tell me about operating system you had, what you have now, what you thought of Microsoft then, what you think of it now, and all that jazz. What do you use now?
Okay. Well, I suppose I am both a Mac and a PC. I am freshly minted Mac, all Mac everything. That's not even on purpose. But I grew up in a PC home. My mom was, for the majority of her career, a trainer for the state of Kentucky for state workers on Mac products and also like proprietary state developed systems and products and things like that. So I was a PC and kind of an early internet adopter of things. So that's where I come from. I learned in college to use a Mac because advertising was one of my majors, and definitely was okay with that. In my first job out of college, I had the experience of using Mac-based products on a PC. So really kind of I've run the gamut of using PC and Mac. When I started using computers for, work and really getting everything done, I really was predominantly PC. I was all about using a Mac. And at that time, there was a lot of grumbling and kind of harsh things, people would say about Microsoft. But to me, it didn't really I don't know. I was not such a heavy user of the products in such a complex way that required for me to hate Microsoft in the way that people seem to dislike it. So it always just worked for me, with the exception of Outlook. That was it.
I thought you were going to say Internet Explorer too,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
Outlook
yeah.
works. I'll hate Outlook.
Hey, I loved Outlook for a decade and something. I'm finally trying to wean myself off of it, but I get it. Okay.
Well, for like the home user, Outlook just was not the business. But I was using it in college, and it served my purposes. I'm always happy when the computer serves your purposes. When it stops serving your purposes, that's when you get mad.
So okay, two questions. Did price matter when you were using PCs? Like, for me, it was really I couldn't afford to switch to Apple for a long time.
Yeah.
Did that matter?
Oh, yeah. It mattered all the way up until 2014, August, when I bought a PC. It was actually the Microsoft Surface, and it completely did not work for me in the way that I wanted to. Actually, I bought it so that I could be a better participant in Millennial think tank, because it was
I love it.
Hangouts, and I was like, I gotta do better. Because remember when I was on it earlier,
Yeah.
and just cutting out, and I was like on 2 different things or whatever. So,
Wait, so what do you want right now? What do you want right now?
Well, now that's what I'm saying. When I got the Surface and it did 0 of the things that I wanted it to do, then I took it back within a week, and then that's when I moved over to just get it. I got a Mac, and it's a little handy notebook kind of a Mac. It was the lightest MacBook Air, and it right now, again, serving my purposes, I'm happy. But for the price point that I was at, I am super thankful about the fact that in my life right now, I can afford to purchase a Mac computer, and it serves all the needs that I need it to serve, and I don't have to do a lot of extra crap to make it serve the needs that I serve. So serve the needs.
But what do you use at work? Because Jillian's a community manager. I mean, she's in social. What do you use at work? You do use a PC. Okay.
Yeah, with Adobe products on it.
Yeah, and Albert tried to make me look like an old woman in the chat, but I had said one of the reasons I didn't switch back in the day is because you had to buy each Adobe product individually, and it was too expensive. And now, yes, I know you can subscribe to them. I do that, just like I subscribe to Office 365. So I think that changes the conversation about whether you can switch or not, because software doesn't matter, right?
Well, a little bit. It does matter. I mean, at this point, you have to if you change to a Mac, then you have to convince the powers that be that yes, you need to spend $3,000 on a piece of machinery that's going to work exactly the same work that piece of machinery.
The price of the machinery, the machinery work costs. But back then, Jillian, I would have to pay $750 for Photoshop, $750 for Adobe, for Illustrator, and on and on and on. And it was on top of paying for the hardware, you would have had to pay for that, and now you don't. You just log in. Yeah. But okay, so I'm gonna switch to Dominic, so you've never been on a Millennial think tank before.
Nope.
So here's what we do. Introduce yourself, where you fall on the Millennial spectrum. You don't have to give us a number, but young, middle, older, Millennial. And Millennials, just so you guys know, are 18 to 35-ish now. And where you live, what you do, and then the first question is, basically, what was your first experience? What operating system did you have in the beginning? What was your view of Microsoft in the early days of working on a computer and now? All right, go.
Gotcha. Okay, well, I'm Dominic. I am graduating from Chico State this weekend.
Yay.
So if you're anything from California, if you're from the Bay Area, maybe you know where Chico is. Going to be leaving Chico and heading to Austin in about a month. I am 22. I don't know if that puts me. I guess I'm on the younger side of Millennials, I guess. I think it's probably a blessing and a curse that from a very young age I had access to a computer and I was able to teach myself a lot of stuff when I was young. Kept me inside a lot, which wasn't the best thing.
What was that computer? What was it?
Right. I was gonna say it's I started on a PC. That's where I started. It was probably Windows XP as early as I can remember. I don't know maybe
Oh
earlier.
my
I don't
God,
remember.
that makes me feel so
Um,
old. Okay.
Well,
Go.
I mean, I just have bad memory. It's not about my age. But I remember having that in my family's house, and I think for a long time my dad's been on a Mac, so I've always been around Mac products. My dad's a designer and a cinematographer, and he's a creative guy. So he always kind of had to have a Mac. Once that became the standard for all creatives, he had to jump on the bandwagon. So I've always been around it, but I didn't start getting into Macs till about high school. So up until then I was a PC user, not doing anything too fancy, kind of like, I'm sorry, I forget your name, what you're just saying. Jillian, what you were just saying about you using PC devices. That's kind of how I was, and then I got into Macs in high school because I got into film, kind of like my dad, and the film program and like multimedia people, they all had Macs, they had like older Macs, but and a couple newish ones, like in their computer labs. So I started using them. When I got into high school, and I liked them a lot. I liked the performance of them, but I knew that they were kind of like the thing that I'd probably never have because of just my financial situation. I actually never thought that I never wanted to buy a Mac because I liked them, but I never felt like I needed it for my needs. Because at the time although I was doing film, I was also studying like animation, or animation, like art, and then I got into animation in college for a little bit before I changed majors, and I knew that a lot of what I was going to be doing was could be done on a PC, because I wasn't strictly a designer where I had to have Adobe products. I was doing a lot of using a lot of programs that were kind of backwards compatible between PC or Mac. But then I transferred to Chico State, and I became a music industry major, and as soon as I got here, I was told that I have to get a Mac. It was required for me to graduate. I had to get a Mac.
Really?
And I don't know if I was that
Like,
excited about it.
Like legit required, or your friends were saying you're not cool if you don't have it?
Like it's a special bundle that you had to get when you were recording arts and music industry major. Like
Did you have to get
it's
like
required.
Logic and GarageBand and stuff?
Yeah.
Wait, Zach, ask it again. Wait, I didn't get to hear Zach's whole question. Zach's in film, and I don't exactly know Zach.
He's like, I don't know.
He does smart film stuff. What was the question?
I was asking if the reason was because he had to get Logic, which is an audio software program, and GarageBand.
Right. It's
basically
basically
like that, yeah.
That's basically the reason. I mean, it was weird is that I'm not a recording arts major by any means. I'm a music industry major, which means I study the business of it. So I knew from the beginning that I assumed I wasn't going to be doing much on the computer that would require a Mac. But, I figured maybe I'd be proven wrong, and, like, I'd get in there and I'd have to have a bunch of classes where it was very clear why I was using my Mac. And let me tell you, I don't know the other schools, but at Chico State, buying this bundle was probably one of the biggest mistakes I've ever had to make in school. I have almost completely not used my Mac and anything required for this major that I had to buy.
Wow.
I think I ended up getting a more expensive bundle than everyone else because there was like one more of this version of Mac in the store, and it was the version before Retina, so they had a couple models left, and this one was more powerful. So I thought, I don't know, spend $200 more, and then I will get the better one. Why not? I'm already spending $1,500. Might as well just get rid of the rest of my savings. So I bought the more expensive one, and I mean they required me to get a MIDI keyboard. Like you said, Logic I think was required. I don't think Pro Tools was required for me, but I think maybe Logic, and I had to get like a program called Audalius. I had to get Sibelius, which is an arranging program. A variety of things.
Stop. I just have to ask, because I'm kind of shocked, because this is really Microsoft. We wanted to hear about Microsoft, but I was expecting every one of you have had Microsoft products at some point, right? And besides Zach's previous Apple love, because it doesn't sound like you're as big of a fanboy as Mary made you sound. Oh, go ahead, unmute yourself and tell me.
I am. I don't have enough.
You can't afford to be a fanboy.
Yeah, I don't have enough money right now to, to express my love to
for Apple.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
you also said that you're very happy with what your computer that you built, PC, is doing.
Yeah, you definitely, and it's a bit of accomplishment on my part for actually building the computer itself.
Okay.
Building a computer today is like building a car in like the 80s or something like that. There's a community for it, and there's a giant sense of accomplishment. And so like every time that I turn it on, and it only takes like 3 seconds to boot up and everything like that, a little tear comes to my eye.
Okay.
To know that, like,
but I mean, I'm telling you. So Joe said in the chat, it sounds like Apple better invent some more shit that other people haven't built yet. But I'm kind of stunned because it sounds like most of you, even Albert, who's got all Apple products, would be kind of okay with having Microsoft products as long as they work. And all right, I'm going to stop because we have so many more questions to ask you, and some of them about.
I have something to add to that,
okay,
though.
Go ahead.
I know why, because, and you know, I work in tech now, and so I've always worked in tech. Sorry, and I think one of the things that becomes a real constant when you work in high tech, is that nobody really talks about, like, I think feature sets unless you're really doing like something really. A really specific type of thing. Like the last time I watched TV and heard like an ad for a laptop was a really long time ago. No one, I think, goes out of their way to say how this laptop has a 500 gig hard drive or this fancy of a graphics card. Because if you really want those things, you know where to go. But if you're the average Joe consumer, not Joe Cardio, of course, but if you're the average Joe, anything that you really need is going to be usually affordable, unless you really want to go out of your way to buy an Apple, and will do all the things that you need to do, which is word processing, email, internet, all that stuff. And so, in the high-tech B2B space, you now see a lot of transition into an emphasis on vertical solutions and solutions-oriented marketing. Whereas before you had feature-based marketing, which is now, in my opinion, on its way out.
Yeah.
And so that's why you don't see as much, I would say, single product evangelism as much as you see single solution evangelism, which is, I think, where everything's going.
And I get that when you brought that up at that other hangout, I really, it resonated with me because it hit.
And look at Joe's comment in the chat here. It has rounded edges.
Well, that's Apple. It has rounded edges. It makes it special.
Like, I don't care about rounded edges anymore. If it helps me make a phone call or if it helps me do these 3 tasks, then I'll buy it. But if it won't, then I'll go to the next best product.
Because it wasn't supposed to be an Apple obsession question, but obviously you can't talk about Microsoft without talking about Apple. You just can't. Because
they can
when I was a
extend
kid,
to Microsoft too, right? That is, Windows helps you get what you need done and helps you be profitable and helps you.
Wait, Albert, just wait. The beginning, in the beginning of time when computers were still there, when computers were new, when everybody was getting PCs, when you guys were in your cribs, Apple was dominant in the very beginning, but they, when they did the closed source thing and wouldn't other people let people develop programs for, the whole story, Microsoft dominated, and it dominated. I mean, Apple was dead. Jobs was out of Apple. Like there was a time in my life where you were like, okay, that was interesting. Apple blew it, and then.
Microsoft's always had a greater channel too that they can work through. They have all these developer things and all that stuff. And
Albert, my show, stop talking. So sorry, but I want to get this out because it's important. It's a question. So there was a time when Apple was dead. It was only living because of graphic designers. Nobody was buying it because Microsoft let everyone develop for it. It was the way it was, and Steve Jobs looked like a really brilliant man who blew it by being arrogant. That was the story. And then when they developed, when he really pushed design, I mean, the iPhone went nuts because of how beautiful it was. It wasn't just how cool it was, Design was enormous. I mean, it was happening when Michael Graves was selling all these products at Target, when Americans finally realized that things don't have to be ugly to use, right? And that is one of the reasons that Apple had such a passionate fan base. But I'm hearing something different here that might be that beautiful design, and I mean, I know that other products have sort of caught up and copied Apple. I don't know that I think any of them are as beautiful, but is it that design isn't as important? Mary, I want to ask you that because Mary's an interior designer. After she gets her microphone from Zach.
Okay. I'm here.
I want to know, like, okay, I know that you're a starving college student, right? But if you had all the money in the world, would the way Apple products look in your personal life, because we've already talked about the fact that you might not be able to use them in your professional life with the AutoCAD and all that other stuff. But But does the way it looks matter to why you're buying the products? Because it was a revolution when Apple designed beautiful things. I remember the first laptop I bought that was an Apple. I did it just because it was so pretty. I wanted to own it. You know, it was almost like the Bloomsburg Circle. Here's my art history thing, where it was about beauty in the home, not simply functionality. So, Mary, I can hear you.
I focus more on function than I do on beauty.
From an interior designer. Okay.
Well, I'm planning on going in a very non-traditional route when it comes to interior designing and whatnot. But I do appreciate pretty things, but it's not always the deciding factor of what I get and why I buy it. I look at what it's doing. Like a couple of other people have said, if it serves the purpose that it needs to serve, that's my priority. And then I go into, is it pretty, is it nice, is it fun?
So Albert's right. I mean, Jillian, you answer that question because you're Miss Fashion. Does that matter? No, I said just from your Facebook life, yes. You're I would say you have really good taste, and the way things look could matter. I'm not saying you're superficial about it. I'm saying I like your style. I like the things that you seem like and share. Does it matter to you?
On the one hand, yes, and on the other hand, no. It matters in that kind of what pushed me to laptops versus desktop was just functionality. It was at a time when I just did not have the body ability or whatever. Like I had that car accident in 2010. So I couldn't handle doing a desktop anymore. I couldn't move it any more places. It had to stay where it was. But I had to go a lot of places still, so laptop was the answer. After that, then then the look matters. But even outside of that, it's really size matters more than the look matters. You know what I mean? Because you can always put a cover on. It doesn't matter what it looks like in general. You can always put a cover on, or if you're one of those people that is not like a purist, of your electronics, you can color on it or do whatever you want to personalize it. So I'm not really super swayed by the look of things. Also, I was a huge fan of the Microsoft Zune. So sad that they discontinued that. So
Zune? The thing that you laughed at when I brought it up, Albert, when I said, because Mary's question was talking about Zune versus iPod.
I hated the iPod.
Yeah,
personally.
what about it?
Well, he laughed at me because I said MP3 players, and I'm like, okay. He said something about 2005. All right. So
well,
you
2005 was an excellent year.
What, Jillian?
It was a fun year. 2005 was.
Okay. All right. Wait.
I actually agree with Jillian. I was a Zune user when I was young. I loved it. I didn't have an iPod until I got I think I got an iPod for my family once, and I broke it because I was young and stupid, and then I never got one again.
With a touch screen?
So why were you a Zune user instead of an iPod user?
Because it was cheaper, and because it basically did exactly the same thing at the time.
Thank you.
It was great. I had no problem with it. I think I still have it somewhere with all my music loaded on it. I have to just find it.
What I'm hearing is that making it cheaper is not such a bad thing.
Not at all.
All right. So,
But even in that, though, the Zune had more functionality than at the time the iPod was. It was,
And why did it lose out then?
I don't think it did.
Wasn't as cool?
Because it wasn't as cool. It had already been overtaken by, the hipsters that everybody thinks are cooler than everything in the world, and they like Apple products, and Apple products are going to rule the world.
And the iPod
it is what it is.
All right, wait, I want you to wait.
The iPod functionally was pretty good, right? Am I missing that? When it first came out, the iPod did some stuff that just didn't exist, really.
And Zach's saying the same thing, right, Zach?
Well, I'm saying that I had a Zune. I had every Zune that there was, from the very first brick, the brown brick, all the way to the Zune HD touchscreen. And I can proudly say that I think the iPod was more successful than the Zune was.
Really?
But why? Because it was better?
Yeah, functionality-wise, I felt like a lot of things on iPod made more sense than they did on Zune. A lot of people I would say that if you wanted strictly music, when the Zune HD and the iPod Touch came out, then the Zune HD was definitely the one to get. A lot of people that I knew that had iPods played with my Zune, and they loved it, and they were like, "Why don't I have this?" But with me, I love the iPod Touch a lot more because I had the ability to do more things with it. Before that, with the original, like the iPod Nano and Classic, I loved the way that you could search music on there a lot more than I did on my Zune.
Okay, I got to switch. We're going to go a little bit over because I have too many questions. I just want to talk quickly about, so Microsoft's finally discontinuing, or not discontinuing, such the wrong word to use, not supporting Internet Explorer after, I think, this year. So everyone's cheering. Okay, people are cheering. Okay, so do you have any reaction to Edge, or do you have any anticipation for it? Is anybody excited about it? You know, I used to be a Chrome addict, and I'm definitely not as thrilled with Chrome as I used to be. So, yeah, because it's just whatever. So tell me, okay, who wants to jump in about Edge, anticipation? What's their level of excitement? Is there excitement? Is excitement the wrong word? Dominic?
I mean, I haven't looked into that much about Edge. I was going to add on the fact that I actually was disappointed when, only for a tiny reason was I disappointed that Internet Explorer was stopped being utilized, and I've never liked it that much, but it happened to be at my work this semester, the only way to log in and check your clocked hours was through a certain website in Internet Explorer.
Well, that isn't going to be an issue, though. I'm telling you, in the insurance industry, I have friends in the insurance industry, and they're only allowed to use Explorer. Like, there are companies and industries, and I'm talking about mammoth industries, like, I don't know about Allstate, but big companies like that only let you in through Explorer. Yeah. So, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That's
so I also know, right, that a bunch of ATMs run on Windows XP. So, I mean, there's that whole thing going on, too.
Yeah.
That sucks.
Okay, but Edge, does anybody even think of Edge? Do you not care? Are you looking for a new browser? We don't really care. Okay.
Well, I mean, like I said in the chat, right, I use IE to download other browsers.
That cracked me up. I meant to tell your funny joke on air. Usually I get them out. All right, so I'm going to switch because this is one that fascinates me. So I watched Jobs through his whole entire career and read his biography, and I was always fascinated by the worship for Steve Jobs, and I get that Apple sort of became resurrected and became, this cool product. I mean, it kills me when I watch people stand in line for new things. I mean, my friend Bev was slightly insulted that I wasn't crazy about her fat, ugly Apple Watch. But seriously, people get mad. Like, if it's another product, oh, I don't really like your phone, who cares? But if it's an Apple product, people get angry. It was like a little heated on the Facebook wall when I and even Shelley Kramer, who I love, she came in and gave me a review, but she was like, why do people care so much? There's such a worship of Apple products. This is what always amazed me. Bill Gates was the wonder kid when I was young, and he built this incredible company, made tons and tons of money, and then he retires and he goes out into the world and he does the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. I mean, incredible things for this planet, right? Philanthropist extraordinaire, right? Steve Jobs, by all accounts, was not the same man. Didn't do anything like that, and if you read his biography, make your own assessment of it, but definitely not this. And I've always been amazed that it seems to me that Gates isn't given a lot of recognition. He's definitely not seen as cool like Jobs was, and maybe that's just me reading it. But what do you guys care? Because in our Millennial think tank, there is a lot of Apple love, and it's kind of borders on the love that Millennials seem to have for Uber. And Steve was the everyman. Oh my God, Albert. Okay, who wants to talk about how they see the company? All right, Jillian, go, because I don't know what that means, but you talked about size before. Size was important, and now you're going like so I got to go to you.
Now I'm going to be like the size queen of MTT. It's not the way that I meant it, though. It's like, being able to carry your computer versus having to be rooted in place.
No, but I mean, Millennials are always talked about. They really care about brand ethics, and I hear that. I'm like, Apple is a shitty company, and Joe will back me up on this. They are a shitty company for what they do to the environment, the way they make their products. They don't get any grief for it. Meanwhile, Bill Gates, the founder of Microsoft, has done amazing things for the world, right? Giving most of his fortune away as well. Does that matter to anybody here?
Then maybe it just
does
says
matter.
that maybe we're all more selfish than we really think because
Well, I
we
don't-
want to be Jobs over Gates.
Well,
I
I
don't
think
know.
it's
Jillian,
really.
you go first. Jillian, you go first.
I think it's why people are still giving Microsoft chances to give us electronics that we love. Like, we keep giving Microsoft chances. We're like, is this one going to be the awesome one? Microsoft was trying this one out. Like, we keep giving, like, look at the Apple phone. I mean, look at the Microsoft phones.
The Windows phones, yeah.
Yeah, the Windows phones, my bad. I keep trying them out. And the only problem with those phones is that they're third into the market, so it's already saturated with Apple app developers and people who are finally even deciding that Android app development is worth their time. Now Microsoft has its own specs that you have to develop for. It's a third app market, so they're wading into this, a familiar electronics market, but at a real bad disadvantage. And they seem to find that to be their comfort zone for entering markets. But we keep giving them chances, and I think that is kind of a testament to how people view Microsoft. We're going to keep on giving you chances, but then we're going to fall back on what we know is going to satisfy us if you fail to do it.
Yeah, I'd love to add to that, actually.
I think.
Okay.
No, Dominic,
It's quick.
you go. Yeah, go.
It's pretty quick. I got my first iPhone in the last year. It's an iPhone 4. Okay, I got it for free from my aunt. I didn't really care up until as of late about it. I got it for basically something that Jillian just said, and it's simply that I got tired of having crappy apps. Being at the lower end of the stick on the app market. I'm a guy who's in social media and community management. I gotta have what's newest on my phone. I have to have the latest tech and the latest app, and I was behind at all times with Windows. So I changed my entire phone, my whole operating system, just for an app store. And I think that if Windows had stepped their game up and not been so, I don't want to say selfish, but if they hadn't been so, on their own with what they're requiring of app developers, and if they didn't need to create a product that was so different than what is the standard now, which is basically Apple iPhones, then I think I would have stayed with Windows. Because otherwise, my Windows phone was very reliable. I like its graphics ability, and I thought it was very user friendly. It was very simple and sleek. But I changed it all because of not being able to download the latest version of Instagram. I think Windows phones got Instagram beta last fall.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding. Instagram, that's ridiculous. So
that is ridiculous. Okay, wait, I gotta read Joe's quote because that cracked me up. Microsoft is like that smart kid in school that you like and respect because they know how to do killer science projects and Legos, but he or she doesn't pick up on all the social cues. That is so. Yeah, but when he or she graduates and you come back for your 15th reunion, that's the one you think is really hot because you grow up and you realize, wait a second, they're smarter. Smart's good.
That was my secondary comment. Is look, I hang out a lot on the internet, and I hang out on these forums where engineers from Microsoft are. And they say the same thing. They're like, we love Microsoft. Microsoft cares about so much cool shit, but it just doesn't always have its head together. And this is from employees at the place, too. They do good work.
Yeah. Okay, Albert, or did anybody else want to? Where's Zach? Go ahead,
Zach
Mary.
and I are sharing. I wanted to say the way I agree with both Julian and Dominic and everyone else is because of the timing that Microsoft came in and how much they have systematically failed with phones, I personally think they need to stop and just stick with the computers and tablets and stick with what they know, because they keep trying and we keep giving them chances, but there's going to be a point where we're going to stop giving them chances and it's going to hurt them more, I think, than it is going to help them.
All right, I will say this, though. There was a time, and I was one of these sales people running around the country, sales managers, where BlackBerry was so dominant that you thought there's no way in hell that anyone's going to take over that? I mean, I was addicted. You want to talk about crackberry? And now we want, you go, all the, there are, I never think that one company is going to dominate forever. I think that there's always the chance. I mean, there was a time when Apple was dead and Microsoft was it, and Apple looked like fools, and then, you know, the resurgence. So I'm not, I don't know. Okay, so does anybody else want to weigh in? Joe, I want to hear you talk about the brand ethics of both Microsoft versus Apple. Joe Cardillo.
Yeah, average Joe. I know. I mean,
I never said that.
Yeah, one of the reasons that I love Microsoft is that they love sharing their research, which is so cool. Like, they do great user research, they do great privacy, and in fact, if you go and look at like some of their projects around things like I was just looking at like because I know this cat who works over there, like they do all that stuff like facial recognition and these really cool sort of machine learning type projects, and they love to talk about how they do all that stuff. And you wouldn't really, I mean, Apple is like, it's not encouraged to be as open about that kind of stuff because there's a lot of competitive advantages. So I personally think that Microsoft supports the overall landscape in the market for the web and for the mobile web and for phones, and I like that about them, and I think it's really cool. I think it's a core part of their brand ethic. I think Apple sort of lags at that. But, you know, to your other point, like, yeah, I mean, device manufacturing especially is really brutal in Asia. I mean, there are literally, right now, there are cities in, you know, in parts of Asia, especially China, where, like, people are literally walking across a stream of chemicals that come straight from making phones, and they're going to get cancer, and it's just a done deal. And that's crazy to me.
All for Western living, you know?
I always seem to be really good at killing hangouts at the end.
Yeah, that was a downer.
It's my secret.
No,
it's my secret skill. Sorry, guys.
Wait, I was talking and I didn't. Albert, I want to hear you answer that same question because you are using an Apple everything, right? And
Yeah.
So does it mean anything to you that Apple? I mean, I can't actually speak to
It's the convenience of living in a Western society where you have, I guess, the unfortunate things of, I think, you know, people slaving for labor. I don't know. I haven't really thought about that as much as I probably should. My sister also works for Apple, so she actually goes to, you know, south of China to go talk to those people and do that kind of thing, and goes to, like, Korea and all that stuff. I guess you're asking, do I think about all the ethical...
Do you think about brand ethics? I mean, millennials are supposed to be famous for loving ethical companies, and whenever I really have one of these qualitative discussions about it, I don't hear that.
Yeah, I mean, I think like I think the problem with like millennials is if they don't see it, right? Maybe it doesn't like impact them, even though, you know, somebody probably died to make their Nike shoes, or somebody
Joe
died to
sees it. Joe thinks about it a lot, and Samantha does. She's not here right now, but
I know Samantha would probably give me her, you know, stank eye if I, you know, probably like approved it, you know, and I hate that stank eye, but but I mean, yeah, I honestly don't think about it as much as I should. I mean, I think it's like, I'm not like buying an iPhone like every single day. I buy it once, and I'm like one person. And yeah, then maybe I should think about it more in like a community. Like,
hey, this is not like, I'm not your mother, and this isn't confession, and it's okay, because what I really want is the truth. And I mean, I don't know, you know, hell, they sell a lot of Apple products. Lots of people don't care apparently. But I just wondered if
I think we've discussed in a previous millennial think tank, like, what isn't tainted?
No, I'll tell you, but I mean, what I guess the real question was, and there are companies that aren't tainted, and if you go back and read my old social justice series, you can read about a lot of them. But but I guess the real question, because Susan Silver, who, you know, is our brilliant analyst, really wanted to know if the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and all of the things they've done mean anything to you when it comes to Microsoft products. I think that was a real question, and of course I always have to counterbalance.
I think it's separate, really. I mean, what Bill Gates has done for malaria research is great, but I don't think it really hinges on the fact that, you know, I want to buy more Microsoft products. I think what you do for your company and then what you do with your money afterwards, I know they're connected, but I think with Microsoft, maybe I don't make that connection just because it's like, I mean, maybe Bill Gates wanted to live a bigger life that, didn't just involve technology.
I agree with that.
No, I get it. I mean,
Steve Jobs sunk his entire life into Apple, and I mean, it showed in his 2005 Stanford University commencement speech. I don't think there's another speech that you can point to that Bill Gates gives that's anything like similar to that.
Okay. All right.
I mean, we quote Steve Jobs all day, his whole thing about living, your own life because you're already, naked to the truth of the world. I mean, it's so eloquent. Bill Gates hasn't ever said anything like that.
Oh, that's not true. That is not true. That is not true. You just haven't listened. And that's what's interesting to me is the cult of Apple. Bill Gates talks about changing this world all the time. And that's what amazes me is that and that's what I didn't hear come out that I expected to hear is that, Jobs spent his life working for himself and making himself rich. That's what he did. He made incredible products. He made an incredible company, brought it back to life. But, I mean, it's just, this goes back to all of the stereotypes about millennials and Gen Y being so brand ethical and so different and so civic-minded and they're going to change the world. And I don't know if that's true when you're actually spending your own money. I don't know. I don't know if that comes into play.
I think the separation really is that it's the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation rather than the Microsoft actual profit money foundation of profits from Microsoft going to XYZ, things and this and that nature. This really is just talking, like, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is just another way to say my wife and I's free time. You know what I mean? Like, so buying a Microsoft product doesn't necessarily...
Well, it makes them richer. It makes them richer.
That's right. Like, and anything that you buy makes the company profits, and whatever the company chooses to do with their profits, disseminated out to the CEO, the shareholders, the whoever and else, what they do with that money secondarily is all their business. And all that I do is purchase an item from this company. I'm not buying it from the foundation. I'm buying it from Microsoft.
Okay. Totally get it. So when you buy a product from Apple, you are buying it from that company that makes products, unethically, and that doesn't matter.
Yeah, that makes battery acid.
It also boils down to what they did environmentally for the entire world. Like Steve Jobs, unintentionally or not, has changed the way that we view the entire world, the way that we consume media, the way that we can connect to other people. We have.
Well, he didn't invent the internet.
We have things like the mouse because
he just put it on a phone.
We have things like the mouse because Steve Jobs decided to add that to his computer. Like we take it for granted now because everybody uses one, but before that we had no such thing as a mouse, and that's one of the reasons why design is usually on Macs because they started on the thing that you could actually draw on. We have things like the iPhone, which completely revolutionized the way that we connect with everybody. Like, yeah, we had internet, but we didn't have internet everywhere we went, and that changed the game hugely.
Yeah. I don't.
And there's other things that he's done.
But based on what you're saying, I don't know if you're thinking about that when you're buying a product either, though.
I am. I don't know if every single person is thinking about the thinking about those small things.
Okay, well, are you
those
guys?
innovations that.
Like, you're very tech knowledgeable, Zach. Like, you are. You really are. So I don't know. I want to know. Do other people think about Joe? You go now. Go, sir.
Well, I mean, like, if you're, I think it's silly and not realistic to be like, there's some problems with Apple, but I totally agree with Zach. I mean, the reality is, like, absolutely, it's changed the way people consume information, and that has some very cool and serious implications. Like, there is a whole continent that, unfortunately, people think is a country, Africa, which I won't get into the craziness of that, but like, there's a whole country that is on its way to being, like, revolutionized in a lot of good ways by mobile devices and by text messaging and SMS. And I don't necessarily think all that would have existed if a company like Apple didn't come into being. But of course, there are trade-offs, right? So, I agree and I disagree.
And I don't think it would be, for all the wonderful gadgetry we have today if Apple didn't actually ultimately release the iPhone. Otherwise, we'd have phones that look like BlackBerry circa 2005. I also think that we don't have thinner laptops without, MacBook Pros either, without, like, Apple releasing the MacBook Air. You don't have
definitely,
thinner looking...
like, one of the reasons Apple blew up is not just the technology, but the design. Absolutely. I just didn't hear any of that tonight. Obviously they're still flourishing. I don't know about the Apple Watch, but when Apple brings out a new product, people stand in line to get it. But I didn't hear a lot of design as part of your inspiration for buying product tonight. I heard much more functionality. Right? Which, Albert, you talk about all the time.
Yeah. Functionality matters, but I think we've kind of wandered into the whole aspect of, like, how these companies have, like, branded and messaged themselves, right? Like, I think I said in the chat here 4 minutes ago that I think when Bill Gates talked about Microsoft, he always came from a very, like, techie point of view.
Yeah, yep.
And when Steve Jobs talked about Apple, he always came from a very heart-centric point of view. And I think people relate to the heart-centric point of view a lot more than the techie point of view. And so while Microsoft users are probably definitely more tech savvy because they know how to use, like, all the
I don't know if that's true. They might just be cheap like me. Can buy an Asus laptop for... Well, they might be able to buy an Asus laptop.
Yeah,
I did. I bought an Asus laptop for $257 last year, and it worked great. Honestly, fantastic. Until Addie kneeled on it because it's plastic, and broke the LCD screen. I loved it. And then when I needed a new one, I went and I looked at the Mac, the equivalent Mac that I really wanted was $2,000. And I kept going $2,257, and I have a 7-year-old who's going to break the next one. She wouldn't have broken the Mac if she.
You buy an Apple warranty.
No. The truth is, she probably wouldn't have broken the Mac if she knelt on it. It probably wouldn't have broken. But I bought the other one again, the cheap one again, because it's price does matter too. Not to everyone. It all depends on where we are in our Anyway. All right, so Susan was saying I was not expecting things to get so heated tonight. They weren't heated. All right, so we're going to wrap up. I mean, this is amazing. I actually would like to do this focus solely on Apple and other brands because I was not expecting passion in a hangout about Microsoft. And passion both ways. I don't feel like anybody was advocating for a brand as much as you guys had a lot to say that meant a lot to you. And I guess it just speaks to how technology is really, really important to our lives across the board. So we're going to have strong opinions.
I work in it. It's wonderful.
All right. Okay, so I'm going to hang up. You guys can stay, and we can chat amongst ourselves and argue more if we want. And thanks, everybody, for watching.